The one thing I did notice was that that room that Keir Starmer and Donald Trump were in was full of portraits, which of course Keir Starmer said he doesn't like, but he's obviously left them all up in the checkers.
Yeah, exactly. He did look a bit uncomfortable during moments of it. Was it because Donald Trump potentially exposed the differences between the two men, or was it these big likenesses, portraits staring down at him? We can only guess.
We can only guess. Let's have a look at your question that you asked.
Illegal migration is at record levels in Britain. The Prime Minister is trying to tackle that. What advice would you give to the man standing next to you on trying to stop illegal migration in Britain?
I told the Prime Minister I would stop it, and it doesn't matter if you call out the military, it doesn't matter what means you use, but it's going to destroys countries from within. And we're actually now removing a lot of the people that came into our country. It's a very hard chore. We were given a very, very bad hand. Millions of people came in from prisons and mental institutions. We have to remove them.
Jack, let me just deal with the question of returns, because this is obviously an issue we're taking incredibly seriously. We struck the returns arrangement with France, and notwithstanding the challenges to that scheme, which you've seen in the last few days, a flight went off at 6:15 this morning, successfully returning someone under that scheme. It can be done. It was done early this morning, so I can confirm that that flight went. It went successfully, and I'm pleased about that. Now we need to ramp that up at scale, which was always envisaged under the scheme, but it's very important that we have been able to prove that the proof of concept.
Proof of concept. All very well. They're getting quite excited about it, aren't they, in Labour circles? They're going, look, proof that it works. We've sent somebody else out today, so that makes it 2 people. But he probably isn't that happy that you asked him to get advice from Donald Trump on immigration, is he?
Well, I think, you know, whatever you think about Donald Trump, and some people are pretty squeamish about some of his methods, but he has put his money where his mouth is and actually managed to stop southern border crossings almost down to nil.
Yeah.
And he's done that by a blizzard of pretty tough policies, policing the border, and a blizzard of deportations, often to third countries.
Yeah.
You know, we obviously had the Rwanda plan. Keir Starmer scrapped it on day dot. I think many people now who have looked at this for 7 years, people coming across the channel, about 170,000 people, will look at what the president says and think he's absolutely bang on the nose, because we have had a situation now where we've had so many different schemes which have been tried and tested. The Tories put through 3 different pieces of legislation. Keir Starmer has ploughed millions more into trying to smash these people smuggling gangs. He's now come up with his latest plan, which is the one in, one out deal. And people just look at us as an island nation and think, hang on a minute, why can't we put the military in? Why can't we do this? And listen, there might be some legal complications, but sometimes I think you really have to grasp the nettle, get tough. And I think that Keir Starmer eventually will find that the only way of doing this is some serious tough policies. And you know, this one in, one out deal, which they're trumpeting over the past few days, they sent one person, they've sent a second person. I'm no doubt they'll send dozens more in the weeks ahead. I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't think that the level of this is going to be enough to stop people coming over the channel. You know, since this was announced, we had 9,900 people come. We've sent 2 back.
Right.
And even the Prime Minister yesterday said we need to ramp this up at scale. And I hope he can do it. But just from what I'm seeing at the moment and all the legal challenges that are coming with it, I just don't have that much faith at the moment that it's really going to, as they say, break this business model.
Right. Well, they don't seem to have the capacity to hold more than about 100 people. I mean, they've been holding these people in a detention centre near Heathrow, right? And if they're going to start stopping all of the people that come, say, for example, like we just heard from Chris Philp, there's at least 5 boats on the way already. That probably rounds up to around about 500 people. Say 600 people come today, 700, 800. They're not going to detain them all because they haven't got anywhere to put them. And so that's the problem. And so if you're one of those men in a dinghy, you're going to have a pretty good chance of getting through, and you're going to have a pretty good chance of getting into a hotel, at which point you worry about it later.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've already crossed the Middle East, you've crossed the Mediterranean, you've come all the way through Europe, you've come all the way to France, if you have still pretty good odds of being able to stay in the UK when you get there, you're not going to give up at that last moment, are you? Of course you're going to come to the land of milk and honey, where you get free hotel, free bed and board, Aspen card and the rest of it.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to try and risk your life to come across there. And so that is why it's the credible deterrent which you really need. And the deterrent is that you will know that if you cross that channel and come to this country, then you will be deported very, very quickly, either back to your home country or, and this is where I think there was merit in Rwanda, despite all of the problems that it had, a third country where your asylum claims will then be heard. And that is, I think, the ultimate deterrent. And then you have all the stuff about getting rid of the pull factors, like the hotels, like the illegal working, and the rest of it. Until you really have those big deterrents which stops people coming over here, then I think this problem is going to persist.
Exactly right. And also we've now got the other prospect on Saturday, tomorrow, of a flight coming in from Charles de Gaulle with some migrants on it who have been sort of pre-approved for living in the UK. And a lot of people are saying to me they're worried that this is going to result in even more people coming. They've sort of effectively opened up a new route, which is an approved route, if you like, for these people who can come into the country, probably seek asylum successfully, and then bring their families in.
Yeah, and I think that's the big danger. And you look at the sort of one in, one out. I mean, the first migrant we sent back was supposedly an Indian national. France are going to be able to deport him back to India, at the snap of their fingers, because they have a deportation deal with India, and so they've really gained no one, whereas we're going to be gaining some more people. And obviously, that's not to mention the thousands of people that are coming in every month and who by illegal means. But I do have to say, I did find it quite bizarre when you heard the fact that Indian nationals were coming over here. We've just signed this massive trade deal with Modi. The Prime Minister's going to go and see him in a few weeks' time. We do have pretty strong relations with them, and the fact that we can't seem to deport, we've given them many visas over the years, and the fact that they can't seem to take back one of their migrants who is illegal here just seemed pretty shocking, if I'm honest. And I think this goes to show that we need to sort of get tough with actually deporting people back to their home countries as well.
Well, because one of the reasons that the French have agreed to accept this character is because they've got an agreement to send people back to India. And why we, as you say, why we don't have that, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Or, like they're a pretty strong ally of ours. Why they're not just willing to take this person back just seems absolutely baffling. And, clearly it was an easy option sending this person back. And clearly the French basically get to pick who they want to go back over there. And they're going to pick all the people who they find pretty easy to deport. And presumably we're going to take the people who will basically end up staying for a long time. And so, listen, what the president said yesterday, I think many people here will resonate with. He might not be totally au fait with the ins and outs of all of the sort of the legal wrangling in terms of the UK boats problem, but in terms of actually getting tough and a statement of intent, he's clearly bang on, and people will feel that he sort of speaks for them. And Keir Starmer, I think, had a pretty good and easy ride yesterday at that press conference. Downing Street will no doubt chalk it up as a success. But this is now a marker, and there will be people over the weeks and months that look back at this press conference and go, he was right, Donald Trump, and you should listen to him. Yeah.
And also now, even though they're probably still going to be basking in what they think is a bit of minor glory anyway, a bit of sunlight for a change, given the terrible last 2 weeks that he's just had, he's going to wake up this morning as well thinking, now we're back to normal, that all of the problems that were here on Monday before Donald Trump arrived are still here, and what's he going to do about them?
Yeah, definitely. And, it definitely was a good state visit. I think a welcome distraction is probably the best way of putting it, because he did lay it on thick with the president, dispatch the royal family to woo this royal-loving president, pomp and pageantry, all of the rest of it. Some big numbers when it comes to trade, which is nothing to be sniffed at. But you're right. Come Monday morning, when he is hit by an economy which isn't growing, and he has to make awful decisions at the upcoming budget. He has migration, which is still ripping, and a one-in, one-out deal, which at the moment doesn't really touch the sides. Crime is still rocketing. People are upset about growing concerns about free speech. All of these, chickens are going to come home to roost again on Monday, and it is the tough work of government that continues. And hopefully he will want now to have the same kind of warm glow around the state visit which he has in his government, but that is going to take, as the president said, some real tough action rather than just sort of diddling at the sides, because that's what people want, and that's what people expect of him now.
And more bad news on the economic front. UK government borrowing announced today higher than expected, 18 billion just last month in August alone, the highest borrowing figure for 5 years.
dreadful. We're running the economy so hot at the moment, right to the uppermost limits of our borrowing, to the point where our debt interest repayments are about £100 billion a year. That's about double the defence budget. And for a Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, who's looking for levers for pull at the budget in a few weeks' time, the only place she's now boxed herself into is more tax rising. I agree that she shouldn't borrow anymore, and these fiscal rules are good in the fact that she will not just keep spending and spending and spending. But where are the cuts in spending? Where's the massive reduction in the size of the welfare bill, which we were promised? There's now murmurings that actually Pat McFadden isn't looking to cut that by as much as he once thought. Where's the massive reductions, in NHS bureaucracy, in the quangocracy, all of these arm's length bodies that swallow up billions and billions of pounds? And so I think that what the Chancellor needs to really do at this budget is, one, try and get growth going. And you don't get growth by taxing businesses and strangle them with red tape. You get growth by doing the opposite. And also making some serious cuts, because that's the only way, I think, which you're going to try and balance the books.
Yeah, absolutely right. Jack, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Jack Elsom, political editor at The Sun.